Hi, my name's Catherine Smithy and I am a teacher at Stockwell Elementary, and we're going to be doing a math lesson, and today is day one of our summer school virtual series. And just to start, you're going to need the materials listed here on the screen. You have a worksheet that may have come in your packet, and then you're going to need a pencil and scissors today. So we're going to start each lesson with a refuel, 5-minute refuel. And while we are doing this today, if you want to go ahead and at the bottom of that paper, there are some squares to cut out. You're going to need those cut out for an activity a little bit later. So you can go ahead and do that while we go over Listening Larry. Now, no matter what school you went to this year, you're probably familiar with Listening Larry. And Listening Larry's on the beach today. He's on vacation, but he realized that just because you're not at school doesn't mean that there aren't times to be a whole body listener. So we're going to see what Listening Larry has in his beach bag today, and we're going to review what each job is of each of our body parts when we are being a whole body listener. So the first body part we have today is our ears. So do you remember, what is the job of your ears if you are being a good whole body listener? You are listening to directions, you're listening to what the speaker is saying, you're trying to block out those other noises and distractions. What about your hands? What are your hands doing if you're being a good whole body listener? Well, they may be in your lap if you're listening, or if you're following along and doing a worksheet with the teacher, then you're writing, okay? This is Mrs. Smithy's favorite. If you are listening with your heart, if you're being a whole body listener and you're listening with your heart, what is the job of your heart? Now, I'm not talking about your heart beating to keep you alive, but if you're listening with your heart, that means that you are showing empathy and you're caring about what the person is saying that you're listening to, okay? So you feel. What about our feet? What should your feet be doing if you're being a good whole body listener? Right now your feet may be on the floor, but are they stomping or making noise? Say, no, that would be kind of distracting. What is the job of our eyes? Your eyes should be on the speaker, right? Right now you'd be watching me. What about the brain? What's the brain's job? If you're being a whole body listener, you're thinking about what it is you're learning, or you're thinking about what you're hearing. And last, our mouths. What is the job of your mouth? If you are being a whole body listener, if you're listening, then your mouth probably isn't talking or saying anything, okay? So just remember that even though you're at home and you're learning a lesson, that you can still be a great whole body listener, okay? We're going to go ahead and get started with our lesson for today. And our target is I can use addition to find the total number of objects in an array. And in order to do this, you're going to be able to identify rows and columns and skip count to find the total. Okay, so those are two important skills that you're going to be doing today. So first of all, I'm going to ask you this question. What is an array? Do you remember seeing that in second grade this year? Well, an array is an arrangement of objects into rows and columns. Each row has an equal amount and each column has an equal amount. So if you look at these purple triangles here, you can see that they are arranged, or they're organized in a certain way. We have rows and we have columns, and then we have this word equal. That means that they have the same amount. So we have the same amount in each row, the same amount in each column. And it's really important that you know the difference between rows and columns. So rows go side to side. So we have 1 row, 2 rows, and columns go up and down. We've got 1, 2, 3 columns. I always tell my second graders that rows go side to side, like if you're going to row a boat. Just those little tips to try to remember which one's which. So how does it make it easier to count by arranging objects in an array? Well, if you look at the objects as equal groups, you can find that there are columns. So I'm just going to move these here to show you what the groups would look like. And if you know how to count by twos, you could skip count to find the total. 2, 4, 6. But you could also make equal groups by looking at the rows. So we have a row here and a row here. So how would you count to find that total? 3, 6, if you know how to count by threes. Or you could just add 3 and 3 and get 6. It's a lot easier than counting each one by ones. Okay? So if we're looking at these objects that are in groups, which of these objects are arranged in an array? I want you to think about that real quick. Which ones would be arrays? Knowing that an array has rows that have the same number in each row and the same number in each column. Well, is this an array? No, those are not arranged in rows and columns. We have 2 in this row and 2 in this row, and we have 2 in each column, so this is an array. This looks just like the array that we just saw, only it's turned up like this. What about this one? Is this an array? It's close, but there's 3 stars in these rows and only 2 stars in this last row. So it may look close, but it's not an array. Which group of objects would be easier for you to count? And why? Think about that. Well, I know that this array would be a lot easier for me to count because I can tell that there's groups of 2 and I can quickly count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Over here, they're not organized in an array and I may have to count by ones and then they're kind of scattered, so I may forget which ones that I count. So a reason why we put objects in an array is to make it easier to count. I'm going to have you watch a video, and every time I have you watch a video, I'm going to give you a question to think about. That's so you can focus on the information and not get distracted and zone out. So the question I want you to think about today is, how can I use what I know about skip counting to create my own array?
How do you find how many tiles there are without counting them one by one? In this lesson, you will learn how to count objects by using an array. Let's review what skip counting is because this will help you count quickly. Skip counting is counting by numbers other than 1. Suppose we were counting chicken legs. Instead of counting each leg one at a time, we can count by twos because they are pairs. Counting by twos looks like this: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There are 12 chicken legs in all. Skip counting is definitely a faster way to count. These tiles are going to be difficult to count because they are not in an orderly form. We can move them, though, into an orderly arrangement of rows and columns to help count them. They are now in a form called an array. What shape was made? A rectangle. This is called an array. An array is an arrangement of objects into rows and columns. These are the rows, and each row has the same number of objects. In this array, there are 3 tiles in each row. These are the columns, and each column has the same number of objects. For this array, there are 4 tiles in each column. There are 12 tiles in all. Notice how every row and every column has a tile, and there are no empty spaces. But if you take one away, this cannot be called an array anymore. This array had 12 tiles to start, but when one disappeared, the amount of tiles became 11. No matter how many times you try, the number 11 can't be made into an array. Not all numbers can be made into an array. Now we can count the tiles one by one like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But there is a faster way to count now that they are in an array. We can use skip counting. If we see 3 tiles in this first row, then without counting, we know there are 3 tiles in each row because of how they are arranged. So skip count by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12. We can show what we just did by using what is called a repeated addition sentence. It is called this because the same number is repeated over and over again. There are 3 tiles in each row, so we can add 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. Notice how there are 4 rows, so we need to add 3 4 times. The total number of tiles is 12. In this lesson, you have learned how to count objects by using an array.
All right. Whoop. So the last part is you're going to need your paper that came with your packet, and we're going to do some practice together. And we're going to be creating our own arrays. So if you have your squares cut out already, I have mine down here. I'm going to move them, and you can move yours along with me at home. And we're going to follow the directions and use the tiles to help us create the arrays. And then we're going to skip count to find the total, and we're going to write what we call a repeated addition sentence. That is an equation that matches the array. We'll work more on that next time, but we are still going to write the equation just so that you can get used to seeing what it looks like when we write down our thinking. So, our directions say cut out the square tiles below and construct the following arrays. On the line, we're going to write a repeated addition sentence, and we're going to match the array. So, looking at 1A, we need to create a rectangle with 2 rows of 4 tiles. When I start to create an array, I always start by putting 1 in each row that I need and then build it from there. So we need 2 rows for this first one. So I'm going to move 1 square to start row 1, 1 square to start row 2. Now you can leave a space in between them like this, or you can connect them. It's up to you, but whichever way you use, you need to use for the whole array. So I'm actually going to leave a little space between mine. Now I have my 2 rows, and each row has 4 tiles. Well, I already have my first tile here, so this is 1. And then I'm going to move another one, 2, 3, 4. There's my first row, but I need 2 rows, so I'm going to go ahead and finish my second row, and make sure that you're keeping your rows nice and straight as you can in your columns. Now my array has 2 rows and 4 columns, okay? So if I'm going to count this and write a number sentence, I'm going to look at this first row and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 tiles in row 1, which means there has to be how many tiles in row 2? Right, 4 as well. So when I count to find the total, I can skip count by 4s. And if I skip count by 4s, I am using repeated addition. Now, if you don't know how to count by 4s, then you can just add 4 plus 4. And you should know that 4 plus 4, that's one of those doubles, equals 8. Okay, and I'm actually going to write my number sentence right over here because I'm going to have to erase that so we can do some more. Let's see here. Just go back and do this. All right, so go ahead and make sure that you've created your array and then write down your repeated addition sentence. Okay? I'm going to move these back down here. We'll just move these over too. All right, let's look at 1B. What kind of array do we need to make? It says construct a rectangle with 2 columns and 4 tiles. So it's kind of flip-flopped from the array that we just created. So 2 columns of 4 tiles. Well, I'm going to go ahead and create my columns because I know that that's the information it gave me. So there's 1 column and 2 column I'm going to start. Each column has 4, so I'm going to go ahead and finish and put my column of 4, my column of 4. I want you to go ahead and do that with your tiles. Create your array that would be 2 columns of 4 tiles. And then I want you to go ahead and think about what would that repeated addition sentence look like, that equation that would match. Is that what your array looked like? All right, so if we're going to skip count to find the total of this array, I see groups of 2. I see 2 in each row, so I could count 2, 4, 6, 8. And if I want to write that repeated addition sentence, it would be a group of 2 plus a group of 2 plus a group of 2 plus a group of 2. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 8. All right, I want you to try 2 on your own and construct a rectangle with 3 rows of 2 tiles. 3 rows of 2 tiles. Go ahead and do that. And go ahead and write your repeated addition sentence that would go with that array. You also should have enough tiles to show 3 columns of 2 tiles. So you could create both of those arrays. One array that has 3 rows of 2 tiles and an array that has 3 columns of 2 tiles. What would that look like? I'm going to go ahead and show my arrays up here. So check yours with mine and see if you have something that looks the same. All right, let's look at this first array. I have 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, and in each row there are 2 tiles. So if I want to skip count to find the total, I would have 2 plus 2 plus 2. And your sentence is not complete without your equal sign. And what's the total? 6. And then my second array, 3 columns of 2 tiles, I started my 1, 2, 3 columns, and then in each column there's 2. So if I'm going to look at my equal groups and create a repeated addition sentence, I could say a group of 3 plus a group of 3, and that equals 6. Now for number 3, they're a little different. You're going to take 10 tiles, so go ahead and pull 10 tiles out to the side, and you can create a rectangle, which is going to make an array, any rectangle you want, but they have to be 10 tiles and it has to create an array. After you've created your array, I want you to be thinking, what's that repeated addition sentence that goes with the array? So go ahead and do that. Pull out your 10 tiles. 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just going to put these down here. So you have 10 tiles and they have to create one array. So how could you create that array? Let me see here. I'm just going to start moving them and organizing, arranging them to try to find an array. Oh, I think I've got one extra. Will this work? No, this was an array, but I have to have 10, so if yours looks like this, that's not an array. Try again. Well, let's see if I can make equal groups of 2. I think that may work. Do I have equal rows and equal columns? Yes, I see groups of 2. So I would count this array 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So counting by 2s. So my number sentence is 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 10. Now yours may have looked like this. And you may have seen a group of 5 and a group of 5. So your number sentence may have been 5 plus 5 equals 10. All right, last one. This time you're going to need 12 tiles. So you're going to need 2 more tiles and create an array. Now you can create an all-new array or you could add to the one you have. But go ahead and make an array using 12 tiles. And then you need a number sentence. Well, I think I see right here, I could have just added these 2 onto the end. Now I'm going to straighten up my rows a little bit because I'm going to try to make them as straight as possible. But I think I see a different array I can make. I think I may bring these down here like this. And now I have 4 plus 4 plus 4. Or maybe yours looks vertical up like this, and you see groups of 3. Just make sure your repeated addition sentence matches your array. So I see a group of 4 plus 4 plus 4. So I'm going to write 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals. Now, I'm not that great at skip counting by 4 sometimes. So I can still use addition to find the total. So I know 4 plus 4 is a double, and that equals 8. 4 more would be, well, 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. And if you need to double check and count your squares, you can. All right. You have done great today as we've been working with arrays. Next time we are going to be working more with finding the repeated addition sentences that match the arrays. But if you want to keep learning about arrays at home, there are a couple things you can do. You can find arrays around your house or even when you're out and about other places. Try to find hidden arrays and point them out when you see them. You may not realize that arrays are all around us, and I have just a few examples here. We have a carton of eggs. You may have eggs in your fridge, and you may have not realized that you have columns and there's rows. Or for example, a lot of those tall buildings that you find downtown have rows and columns of windows. All right, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.